You've heard it your whole life. Follow your dream. It's supposed to be the best advice ever. But what if it's not just wrong? What if it's actually dangerous?
Seriously, follow your dream. It sounds so perfect, doesn't it? It's the big line in movies, the closer in every graduation speech. But I'm going to argue that this simple phrase might just be a trap, one that sets us up for a whole lot of disappointment. Let's dig in and see why.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the big cultural story we're all sold. Then, we'll unpack the three huge traps this advice creates: the trap of perfection, the myth that it should all be effortless, and the hidden psychological toll it takes. And don't worry, we'll end by looking at a much better way forward, the path of mastery.
All right, let's start at the beginning. We're all handed this kind of cultural script for our lives and careers, and it starts with a promise that is, incredibly appealing.
And here it is. The big idea is that there's this one perfect job out there, your calling, just waiting for you to find it. And once you do, boom, it'll feel easy, it'll be pure joy, and it won't even feel like work. But as you're about to see, this beautiful idea can set up some really dangerous expectations.
So, this leads us right into our first major problem, the trap of perfection. This is what happens when that perfect dream slams right into the messy, complicated, real world.
And what a collision it is. On one side, you have the dream, endless excitement, pure pleasure, no boring stuff. But the reality of any meaningful career? It's full of complex duties, frustrating moments, and yes, tedious tasks. When you expect the dream and get the reality, you end up with this chronic feeling of dissatisfaction, always looking for that next magical job that, well, it just doesn't exist.
And the fallout from this is very real. You see people job hopping constantly, convinced the next one will finally be the one. They totally ignore the massive role that luck and just plain weird, unpredictable events, what some call black swans, play in our lives. But the worst part? When reality doesn't match the impossible dream, they don't question the advice. Nope, they blame themselves and feel like a total failure.
Okay, this brings us to the second huge flaw in the whole follow your dream idea. This myth that it should all feel easy. We get so focused on the glamorous destination that we completely forget about the often brutal journey.
This is what you could call the result versus process trap. I mean, who wouldn't love the idea of being a rock star? The fame, the cheering crowds. It's awesome. But loving the result is a totally different thing from loving the process. The thousands of hours of repetitive practice, the frustrating moments, the sheer grind it takes to get good at anything.
So instead of chasing a feeling, the alternative is to focus on building something called career capital. The best way to think about this is like currency. It's the rare and valuable skills you get through hard, deliberate work. This capital is what actually gives you power and options in your career. And when you don't have that capital, you get this predictable and frankly dangerous chain of events. Someone quits a perfectly good job to follow a dream, like opening a coffee shop, but they have zero business skills. They launch it, and very quickly realize they don't have the career capital to make it work. Before they know it, they're under incredible financial and personal stress. They gambled without having the chips to play the game.
Now, beyond all the practical and financial stuff, there's a really serious psychological price tag that comes with this advice. It can do some real damage to our heads.
It's a total paradox, right? You tell a young person, you can be anything, and it sounds so freeing. But what often happens is just paralysis. With a million options, the fear of picking the wrong passion becomes so huge that they pick nothing. The result? They hit 30 with a thin resume and a lot of anxiety.
This quote right here just perfectly nails the psychological trap. It's something called the law of reverse effort.
It's pretty simple, actually. The more you obsess over having a dream life, the more your brain just hammers you with how far you are from it right now. All that focus on what you don't have just makes you feel even more inadequate and unhappy. And then there's maybe the most tragic risk of all. When you're blindly chasing a single professional dream, it's so easy to sacrifice everything else for it. Your health, your family, your friends. You can spend your whole life climbing this ladder, busting your butt to get to the top, only to finally get there and realize your ladder was leaning against the wrong wall the whole time.
Okay, so we've kind of ripped apart follow your dream. If it's such a trap, what are we supposed to do instead? Well, this is where we shift from just talking about the problem to laying out a real solution. The sources point to a much more effective approach, the path of mastery.
This right here is probably the single most important idea we're going to talk about. We've got it all backward. Passion isn't some magical thing you find that you then apply to a job. Passion is the result. It's the feeling that comes after you put in the hard work to get really, really good at something the world actually needs.
This is a total flip of the script. The passion mindset is all about asking, what can the world give me? It's a little selfish if you think about it. But the mastery mindset, the craftsman mindset, asks a totally different question. What can I offer the world? It's all about creating value first. So the path that actually works looks more like this. Step 1, you build up your career capital by learning rare and valuable skills. Step 2, you put your head down and get so good they can't ignore you. Then, and only then, do you cash in that capital for the things that really make a career great. Having control over your time, feeling a sense of purpose, and having creative freedom.
So let's end with this. Maybe we should just stop asking ourselves that super stressful question, what is my one true passion? And instead, ask a much more practical and I think much more powerful question, what can I become so good at that the world has no choice but to pay attention? Because that might just be the real secret to building a life you truly love.